We ready? There we go. Hi, my name is David Dean. I'm an attorney at Lone Star Legal Aid. I'm here with Jessica Bellant. Am I saying your name right? Bellant?
Yes,
Okay.
Belant. Yes, you're
Bellant.
close.
First, I'm going to introduce myself. My name, I've been a legal aid attorney for 13 years. I primarily focus in family law. I do that here in Houston. And before you get started, I have to read this disclaimer. Nothing said in here should be construed as legal advice. This is for informational purposes only. Contact Lone Star Legal Aid at 1-800-733-8394 or go to our website at www.lonestarlegal.org for more information on obtaining legal assistance for your specific legal issues. All right. Good afternoon, Jessica.
Hi.
You're from the Bridge Over Troubled Waters, which is a women's shelter or a domestic violence shelter in the Pasadena area. And I'm basically going to be interviewing you for about the wonderful work you guys do. I know when I talked to you earlier, I praised your organization so much. It's one of the best shelters here in Houston. I just think y'all do wonderful work, and I'm real excited to talk to you about the work and to sort of share it with our community.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that very high praise. We appreciate it.
Your organization was the first organization I thought about when they asked me, like, who should we talk to, which one of our community partners, and I was like, well, we have to talk to the Bridge. So, all right. First, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure, yes. So my name is Jessica Belant. I'm the Education and Prevention Director at the Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I have been at this incredible organization for about 7 years now, doing education and prevention work, really working in the community, having discussions, holding events, and doing community organizing around how do we prevent domestic and sexual violence? How do we have trauma-informed responses for survivors? How do we assist survivors after they've experienced this? And how do we learn more about the red flags and the signs of domestic and sexual violence? So that's what I get to do every day. Before this, I was a legal advocate and crisis counselor for survivors. So I did that for a few years. So overall, I've been in this movement over a decade now, and I can't imagine doing any other work.
Do you want to give your phone number and where you're located? I know we're going to
Sure.
share it in the chat, but you might as well say it over the video as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we do have a 24-hour hotline here at the Bridge Over Troubled Waters. So that's 713-473-2801. So yes, that's our 24-hour hotline. We also have an office line, but if you have any questions, if you're needing services, if you're in a crisis, if you're looking for shelter, that hotline number is where you call.
And you send me a lot of referrals, and I do represent a lot of your clients. So that's our back and forth usually. I wanted this conversation in 2 parts. I want to talk about domestic violence generally, and then I want to talk more about the work you do at the Bridge. Well, obviously this month is Domestic Violence Month. October is. I mean, that's coming to a close. That's kind of the reason why we're doing this month. First, I kind of want to talk about my own experience when I started doing this work, you know, the sort of cycle of violence and a sort of questions I could have run into in court. It's like domestic violence is not always physical. I think people look for pictures of bruises and stuff, and domestic violence is so much more complicated than that. I mean, I have cases where someone's spouse can be very controlling, like they don't want them being in contact with any family, like they'll cut off their, you know, the power when they're at work and put like a lock on their lockbox, or put cameras up everywhere and sort of control everything about their lives. And there's also really awful verbal abuse, and it's very complicated, and it's not always easy to get people outside of outside of people who deal with domestic violence victims to understand that. Also, it's not easy for people to sort of escape the cycle of abuse. Usually, in my experience, it could take up to 8 times. When I do these cases, somebody will have 3 or 4 instances where they leave in the middle of the night and then they end up having to come back for various reasons. And also people, they marry their partner for a reason. They get together with their partner for a reason, and they just want the violence to stop. They still love the person, but they want they don't want to be abused.
Mhm.
So it's just complicated. Anyway, that's sort of things that have sunk in for me. I've learned over the years. Hey, I'm sorry, Jessica, I mean to take over, but what was your sort of experience in the cycle of violence, and what we can sort of educate people about domestic violence?
Yeah, definitely. I think the cycle of violence is so important to talk about. And I think you're right. People do not recognize how challenging it is to leave. So with this cycle of violence, abusers, they're really smart. They're not abusive on the first date, right? Or just in the first few months even. It's often abusers will wait until some sort of commitment is made. Maybe I love you is said. Maybe they move in together. Maybe they become exclusive in that relationship. They get married, have a baby. They have sex for the first time, whatever that might be, there's love in that relationship. And so that's kind of what we look at as our honeymoon period, right? And it's wonderful. And survivors will talk about after meeting this person, feeling like they were the one I thought I was going to be with forever. Like I thought this was like my first healthy relationship, and who knows how long is how some people will describe it. And then slowly things begin to change after that commitment is made. And that's what we call the tension building stage. And during this tension building stage, this is where survivors talking about walking on eggshells. Things are suddenly changing. Their abuser is easily angered. They keep getting set off over really minor things. And so this is where we talk about kind of like minor or small power and control tactics are being shown, right? So maybe some intimidation, maybe some emotional verbal abuse, maybe some controlling of the money. We're starting to see some changes because that survivor is trying to hold on to some power, hold on to some of their freedom. And when this tension building phase, when that's not enough to let that survivor know that, hey, no, you're not allowed to do these things, that's when we move into the explosive phase. So just like you said, physical violence does not need to be present for it to be a domestic violence relationship. So the explosive phase could look just like a really violent verbal incident, right? Maybe that abuser has taken your phone, thrown it across the room and broke it, right? Because they're wondering, who are you talking to? You're not allowed, you can't talk to them. Maybe they took the lamp from the bedstand and threw it, right? Yelled, screamed, punched a wall, right? These are really scary incidences, right? And it really, the purpose of those instances is really to put that survivor in their place, let them know who has all of the power, and that's the abuser. The abuser also knows, though, that this abusive phase cannot last for too long, right? Or else what's going to happen? That survivor is probably going to leave. Like, I can't take this forever, right? And so that's when that honeymoon stage comes back into play, of where the abuser is really full of, I am so sorry. I will never do this to you again. I was wrong. I'll talk to our counselor. I'll talk to our pastor even, maybe. I love you. I'm no one without you. Please don't leave me. And that honeymoon phase, it's like they were that person in the beginning of the relationship again. Things are wonderful again. Gifts maybe are given, quality time, they're seen caring again. And that phase can last a very long time for people, right? As long as that abuser still feels like they have that power and control, they have no need to go back into the tension building and then the explosive phase. But eventually the cycle will begin again, right? Because that survivor gets comfortable. Oh, this is good. I can live my life fully again, right? I can hang out with my friends. I could go back to school if I wanted. I could get a job. And when they start making those choices, when those thoughts start happening again, that's when the cycle of violence continues again. And as everyone can probably imagine, that's really confusing when for periods of time, things are wonderful again with your partner. So that's kind of how we like to talk about the cycle of violence.
Uh,
does that kind of, you have any
Yeah, no,
questions about that?
I find that true with a lot of my clients. It's like they'll say things like they'll punch a wall and they'll say, "But you know, I'll never hurt you. You know, I'd never hit you."
Mhm.
And they'll say, it's just it's or they'll say things like, "Why are you being crazy? Why are you being, like they'll leave and like text them and say, what is your problem? Why are you blowing up our relationship? Our kids need both of us." And that is true. I mean, the kids do need both their parents, but they also need, to be safe. And so
Yes.
I want to I want to talk a little bit about uh, we have some links we're going to share from the Texas Council on Family Violence. This was something you showed me when we talked, and I found it very, very interesting to talk about domestic violence specifically in the times of COVID and during the pandemic. Do you want to talk a little bit about that report?
Yeah, so every year, Texas Council on Family Violence, they're our statewide coalition. They do research on how many homicides due to domestic violence take place every year in our state of Texas. And so 2020 data was just released early October, and we had a 20% increase in homicides in comparison to 2019. This was the largest, the record number of homicides, of DV homicides in the state of Texas that we've had since Texas Council on Family Violence has begun this research many years ago. I'm not sure when they started. I tried to find that out,
Mhm.
but they've been releasing this research since before I was in the movement for over 10, 15 years. And this is a record number. So this was a horrific year when we think about lethality and domestic violence.
Yeah, no, the report said there was 183 women that were killed last year and 40 men were killed in domestic relationships, 4 men in same-sex marriages, and 40 men killed by their female partner.
And I think what's
Uh,
also significant too about that report is it also talks about ages, it gives demographics, right? And a lot of times when I talk to people in the community, even family and friends, when we think about domestic violence, we often think about a female survivor who is a young adult, right? Maybe 20s or
hmm,
30s. And then, of course, a male abuser, right? Around the same age, usually maybe up into 40s, but around the same age. And yet these reports do really show that domestic violence can happen to anyone of any gender and anyone of any age. Our youngest victim in 2020 was 14 years old,
wow.
14. A couple years ago, it was 12, and she was actually in Harris County.
Hmm.
And then when we think about on the other end of the spectrum, I believe our oldest victim was I think she was 80 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
And so this happens across the lifespan. This does not just happen to one demographic, to one age group. It can happen to, unfortunately, anybody. And that's another reason why this education in schools, as far as let's talk more about healthy relationships. Let's spend more time making sure young people understand what are healthy relationships? What are the red flags to an unhealthy or an abusive relationship? How can I help a friend? And what are the resources available to me? When I was a young person, even when I was in college, until I started an internship at an SADV organization, I'm sorry, a sexual assault and domestic violence organization, I
Yeah.
had no idea we existed. No
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah. No, I had the same experience when I came to work at Legal Aid. I was like, oh, there's actually free lawyers available to people who can't afford an attorney. This is shocking to me because I've never
Right.
experienced anything like this. Um, so what do you think it is particular about the pandemic uh, that that made domestic violence increase to
Yeah,
such an extent?
there's a couple of different factors. So one, isolation was huge.
Mhm.
People were home with their abusers all of the time. People were losing their jobs too. And so this isolation, a lot of organizations, a lot of resources in the community were working from home, were working with limited staff, understaffed. So resources were not as accessible, right? And if you're at home all the time with your abuser, when are you going to call a 24-hour hotline? When is it safe to do that? Versus if they go to work, there's going to be that time of the day where you might have some space to make that call to us to run up and come see us if you have transportation available. But during the pandemic, there were a lot more barriers with isolation. We also saw across the state a decrease in capacity for shelters because shelters were trying to abide by social distancing guidelines, trying to keep shelters safe so that we did not have outbreaks within our shelters. And so we also saw a decrease in availability for shelter for individuals. And that also is, that adds to when we think about stress and barriers to leaving and lethality. In general, too, this was a huge, massive crisis, unlike anything, unprecedented event that we'd ever seen in our country, right? COVID-19. We were not equipped, we were not prepared, nobody was. And the impact of that stress was felt by everyone. And so even though we know that domestic violence is not caused by stress, someone does not get stressed and harm their partners. Stress escalates the abuse, right? It increases the severity of the abuse. And so during this extremely stressful time, we saw more strangulation, we saw more lethal means. And that's another really large reason why we had so many more deaths in 2020. I'm hoping we see a decrease in homicides in 2021. It's hard to say at this point. I feel like we are inundated with news, even just in Houston area. I feel like this year we've heard about more murder and suicide incidences than I had in previous years. Our hotline has been incredibly busy this year. And so I'm hoping that means that things are getting a little bit back to normal so that people are now accessing our services more safely. And decreasing some of the lethality, removing some of those barriers, but only time will tell.
I want to say one more thing about the Texas Council on Family Violence.
Yes, please.
The two documents we shared. The first one, it's just the raw data, demographic, geographic, and all that information. The second document just broke my heart when I saw it. It was the honoring Texas victims. It was the actual stories of the 183 women and 40 men that were killed and what happened. It's a really heartbreaking document. So I would read through that one with, use some care going through that one. It's tough, even for us who do this every day. It's a hard thing to look at.
Yes, we held a domestic violence dinner for the survivors in our shelter. We had a dinner, a little bit of a speak out, and we had a presentation, just kind of like an uplifting activity for them. And we did read those names. We did honor the lives of those who were killed in 2020 from Harris County. And I got chills. I had a very visceral experience. It was really difficult for me to then get up and try to do this uplifting activity afterwards, because it does make it real when you read the names, when you read what they were going through, a little bit about them, what had happened to them. It is, yes, definitely engage in some self-care if you do read that document. It is worthwhile, but it is challenging.
I'd like to just move on and talk about the bridge, about the work you guys do. So I have been going over to the bridge for a long time, meeting with your clients over there, and I love the building. And the first thing I notice when I go into the building is this art exhibit that you guys have, and I believe it's called Silent Witnesses, and they're like wood cutouts of women, and there usually has information such that we've shared here today, information about 1 in 3 women are physically abused by their intimate partner, 1 in 4 men, and it just every time I see that those exhibits, I have to just stand there and look at it. It's just This may be a weird way to start out this talking about the bridge, but it's just what I notice when I go over there. You want to talk a little bit about the silent witness exhibits?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you start that off with when we talk about the bridge, because we put them there for a reason, right? They're right when you walk in, we put them right in those front hallways. And we do put them there because this is our admin side of the building, right? Where people are coming in, where a lot of staff who don't do direct services on a day-to-day basis, and we have them there to remind us, why are we here? Why do we show up to work every day? It's so that we don't lose more lives like these lives that were lost, right? It's to remind us that this is life-saving work, that it is critical, that it is a public health crisis in and of itself, and that we should all care about this issue, and we should all work to eliminate domestic violence. Because like you said, with those statistics, it's clear if we are not survivors ourselves, we know someone who is a survivor, right?
Yeah.
1 in 3, 1 in 4, and then 1 in 3 teens just in high school will experience a dating violence relationship. I mean, we all know people. And so that means we should all be getting involved, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so to tell you a little bit more about the bridge, we are a comprehensive crisis intervention center. We have many programs. I already shared a 24-hour hotline with you all. That is kind of our access point into our services. So if anyone is interested in counseling, therapy, support groups, just coming to talk with someone who can help them with legal advocacy, with safety planning, you can call that hotline number. We'll get you set up with an appointment to come in. We also do have walk-in services. Right now, they're on an emergency basis because of COVID. But if they were an emergency and they didn't have an appointment, they can show up and we would have an advocate here to meet with them.
What kind of questions would you ask if I don't know anything about the shelter? I'm calling. I'm like, I think I need help. What kind of information would I need? Like,
you mean like what kind of information would we ask you as far as getting to the shelter?
like I mean, if I'm scared, but I feel like, well, I don't have any bruises. I just feel like I'm in a dangerous situation. I don't know if is the shelter going to help me? Like, is there like a criteria that you look at?
Yeah, not really. No,
That's good. That's a good answer. So, because I think maybe people may self-select themselves out of seeking assistance. That's the reason I kind of asked that question, because they're like, they're not going to help me. They help only those other people. So.
Yeah, no, if you are looking for shelter because you're fearful of your partner, whether or not there's been any physical violence, there's been any sexual violence, we're going to work to help you get into a shelter, either ours or one of our sister agencies. So yes, no, we don't. It's not like, oh, I need to hear that you have been going through this really horrific physical violence or stalking experience or human trafficking experience. No, of course, if you are experiencing those, yes. But if you're going through emotional abuse, verbal violence, intimidation, if you have been isolated by your partner, if you're being abused, if you're fearful of them, if you want to leave them and you need a place to stay because that's not a good relationship for you, you qualify for our services. We do not have strict criteria when it comes to our shelter. The only thing I do say is that sometimes we often are at close to capacity. We will, if someone is in danger, if someone needs a safe place to stay, we are never going to say, oh, sorry, we're full, right? We are never going to say that. We're going to do our best to make sure that they have a safe place, whether with us or at one of our sister agencies.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're at capacity, then you refer them to us, one of the other shelters. And I think we talked about this before. How many? I think there's 8 different shelters in the Harris County area. Is that right?
Yes. And that seems like a lot, right? That sounds like
Yeah.
a lot of agencies, but it's not. It's still not enough. I mean, there's still so many more callers. On average, we get about 700 hotline calls a month, and most.
Wow, 700.
Yeah, on average, we get about 700 a month, and usually, not always, but oftentimes people are calling for shelter. And that is not going to be unique to our sister agencies. They're going to have very similar experiences as well.
And you take people from all over the geographic area, not just Pasadena or
yes. Yes, great question. We are located, our main location is located in Pasadena, Texas, our shelter and our admin building. And then we have a satellite office in Baytown as well, where we have an advocate out there and a counselor does go out there too. But we service people from all over Harris County, and even some people have stayed in our shelter who are fleeing from another city or even another state. So if you can get here, and this is where we have a space available, come on in, give us a call.
And if you get a woman into a shelter, is it kept secret? So in case their spouse comes or their other dating partner comes and starts
Yeah.
looking for them. I mean,
That's a great question. Yeah, so we do encourage folks in our shelter not to tell their significant other where they are, to keep them and everybody else safe. In general, our location we do not keep secret, right? Like the
yes.
public is very well aware of where we are, but we do ask people staying in our shelter not to let their partner or ex-partners know that they're there for their own safety. Yeah, great question.
And you take the whole clan, right? You take all the children,
Yes,
correct?
yes, definitely. Yes, we often will have more children in our shelter than adults because many individuals coming into shelter do have multiple children. We also have space for single men in our shelter. So a lot of times people in the community know us as an agency that serves women and children. And we do, of course, serve a lot of women and children. That's the vast majority of our clients. And we do serve men as well. And so I just like to say that because, as you said, we know this happens to men too. And it is a barrier for them to feel like, I feel like this agency only serves women and children. And so we're trying to get the word out that we do serve people of all genders.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What do I do, Jessica, about my dog Rufus? I need to bring my dog Rufus into the shelter. I feel like my partner is going to harm my dog if I leave.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah, so I completely understand. The Rufus is important too. We do not want Rufus to get hurt. So what we tell survivors is, unfortunately, we cannot accept your pet in our shelter, but we do have a partnership with Pet Palace. They're an incredible community organization, partner with us, and they accept your animal for free, and they will keep them there with food, well taken care of. They are a boarding and grooming center, so we make sure your animal has a safe place to stay.
That's wonderful. And just FYI, if you come in with an animal and you need a protective order, and that's what you need legally to do, the protective order statute does cover pets. So yeah, that's a big thing.
I was very excited to hear that because that happened, what, 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, it's pretty recent addition. It was something that the legal community who deals with domestic violence victims pointed out, that, I mean, family includes pets, so we have to cover this.
And new dating partners are now covered as well, correct?
Yes.
That's more recent.
Let's point that out. Yeah, and also with the shelters, I mean, you don't have to be married to have the shelter help you. And yeah, so the protective order statute does cover dating relationships, which could mean it just, you have to have some kind of relationship with them, so it's not just marriage. I know we're talking about shelters, but I do kind of want to talk about some of the other services you guys do. You also have lots of therapists and counselors on site and who work for the organization. You want to talk a little bit about counseling services for children and?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people, so our largest program is our non-residential program. And so what that means is we serve a lot of people in the community who do not need shelter, or they don't need a housing program. Either they're still in the abusive relationship, or maybe the abuse happened a long time ago. And you're just now wanting to see a counselor, like you're saying, or go to a support group. Maybe you can stay with friends or family, or you have a place of your own. And so we do serve a lot of people who are not using any of our housing programs. That's not something they need or want. So for our non-residential program, part of that is that we do have a team of licensed professional counselors who do provide therapy for survivors. This is a free service. All of our services are free, confidential, and of course offered bilingually. And so our therapy services right now are a little bit unique. We're looking at maybe changing this up right now. You can be with us and there's no time limit on therapy, right? Whereas a lot of other places, it's crisis counseling. So it might be for a limit of 6 months. And so right now we are unlimited. And so, like I said, that's free, and they use really different approaches, and it's really based on what fits that survivor best. And then we also have an LCDC on staff, a licensed chemical dependency counselor, working with survivors who are trying to stay sober and clean, right? And we have support groups too. So advocates or our therapists will lead support groups. So if, you want to be in community with other survivors, I know a lot of survivors feel a little intimidated by a group setting. But what I find, I led the sexual assault support group at my previous organization when I was an advocate, and I found it to be one of the most powerful experiences for survivors to come together, support one another, hear each other's stories, realize they really are not alone. Because we as advocates, of course, let them know you're not alone in this. You are not to blame in what happened to you. But to really hear it and see it from other survivors sitting around the table with you is something completely different and an experience unlike any other.
It's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And we do have teen group too. So our support groups are not just for adults. We do have a teen group for those in the community who have experienced or witnessed violence. So that's another resource that we have. In addition to counseling, we also do, like I said earlier, safety planning. So let's say, someone is thinking about leaving their abusive relationship, but is really scared to, rightly so, because their abuser maybe has said, if you ever leave me, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to harm our kids, or I'm going to harm your family. I'm going to call CPS and I'm going to have all these false allegations. I'm going to take your kids away from you. The list goes on, right? I'm going to have you deported, right? Depending on the situation. And so
hold on, I do want to say one thing. About especially helping victims of domestic violence who are not here like legally. The family courts do not care. Like you can get a protective order. No one is going to report that you're not here legally. That is a big barrier to overcome with people to actually seek help, because that's a way to, the threat of being deported and not never seeing your children again is huge. So that's a very important thing to bring up. So I'm glad you talked about that.
Yeah, and of course we do provide services to anyone regardless of documentation status.
And we do too. If there's domestic violence, we don't ask any more questions. So
yeah. So yes, with that safety planning, really looking at how can we be creative together and come up with a plan to help you stay safe and make a plan to leave when you're ready to do so, when it is safe to do so, because we also know that the most lethal time when the most homicides occur is when a survivor leaves that relationship. And so we cannot underestimate, as community members, as friends, family, support people, how difficult it really is to leave that relationship and how risky, quite frankly, it is. Abusers are lethal. So we can do that safety planning, and then of course continue that safety planning for after they've left. How do we keep you safe now? Because as I think you said earlier, David, these stalking behaviors don't just happen, like tracking behaviors when you're still in the relationship. They can happen afterwards, right? And abusers are really smart. Some are really great with technology, and we have to be really creative on how do we ensure that they're not continuing to monitor or track you after you've left. And so we offer those services here as well. When we talk about legal advocacy, really we We help survivors understand their rights. What are your rights regarding Title IX, crime victims compensation,
Yep.
connecting, of course, to resources like you, David,
Yep.
at Lone Star Legal Aid, connecting maybe with Tahirih Justice Center.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, going with them too to court if that's something that they want, right? So really being a support person and helping them. What is this process going to be like for you? Helping to make it a little less foreign, help, you know, a little less intimidating, and then be present for them during that time.
I'm always happy to see someone from, you know, the shelter to come to court with them. So because it's very intimidating to be in that
Yes.
environment. And of course, I mean, I'm there as a legal advocate, but you know, to have someone who really knows their story and even be willing to testify on their behalf is very powerful, and it's awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay, I want to talk about also transitional housing, because it comes up a lot with my clients. I usually helping them on the sort of back end, and they don't want to they don't want to stay in the shelter long term. I think
Mhm.
when you want to talk a little bit about the programs you have to actually get some of your clients permanent housing.
Yeah, so we have different housing programs. So we have a rapid rehousing program as well. And so this is getting survivors quickly into their own housing in their own apartment in the community. And they can stay there for 1 to 2 years. And so that is a really great program. We also have our permanent housing program. So this is usually after someone has been in shelter. We're going to be, of course, having those conversations. What are your plans when you leave here? Some people in emergency shelter, they're only going to be here for a couple weeks until they can go move somewhere else
Yeah.
or go be somewhere else with other people, right? Family, friends, or start a new life somewhere. But some folks are like, no, I'm staying here and I need another option for housing. And that's where, you know, we do have options. We do have Destiny Village is an apartment complex that we have here right on our campus here, and that's 30 units, and that's for specifically families, so survivors with children, and those survivors have a diagnosed disability, and that could be post-traumatic stress disorder, that could be depression, that could be a learning or physical disability, and they can stay there in that housing program and for as long as their youngest child is still a minor, or even as long as they are attending school and living at home. So if they're going to St. Jack to go to school and they're still living at home, that survivor can still be there with the support of our advocates, our child advocates, support groups, everything like that. And a really neat program we haven't spent much time talking about is our children's program. We have a very robust, incredible children's program. So a lot of the services I'm talking about, we're speaking in context for that adult survivor, right? Having an advocate that really looks at what are your goals, what are your needs. We also have child advocates too. So every child who comes through our programs, our shelter housing programs, they're assigned a child advocate who really looks at safety planning with that child. What are their goals? What are their needs? What are their struggles? How can we work on those together? How can we help to break the cycle of violence? We also have 2 licensed accredited child care centers. And so that is for survivors who are living in one of our housing programs, either shelter or permanent housing. And they can have their child attend a really incredible child care center for free, knowing that they're going to work and their child is learning and growing in a safe, loving environment. So that's another program we have. We also have male mentors. So one thing that we have found our children's program director felt was really important was that we are an agency mostly full of very strong women. There's a lot of women who staff this organization, and more we've been talking about we need more male staff. We need more male mentors for our boys in our programs, to see that, hey, here's a model, here's an example of the man that is healthy, right? That treats people in their lives with, with respect. And so we do have male mentors now, and they're doing a whole mentorship program that's really phenomenal. Really teaching some really cool life skills for the young boys in shelter, and looking at how do we help foster a culture of boys and men who are also active in eliminating these forms of violence.
Amazing. Is there any other programs? I actually don't know. That's all I know of. Is that did I miss anything?
We have so many programs. We could be on here forever talking about our programs. The one last program that I do want to highlight is the
Sure.
program that I'm a part of, and that's the Education and Prevention Program.
Awesome.
And so we are a team that really just goes out in the community, talk to anyone and everyone. We go out to a lot of schools, talk to a lot of students, we talk to teachers, faculty, and staff. We go out to professionals and do professional trainings, talk to healthcare professionals, law enforcement officers, anyone and everyone, like I said. We'll go to churches, civic groups, and we really just talk about what are these forms of violences and how do we prevent them. We will also engage in community organizing. So we believe that communities know best about how to prevent violence, right? Communities, they know their community best and how we can solve the issue. And so we do a program called Close to Home, where we have individuals from the community who are engaging in this work with us, who are helping us hold events, hold roundtable discussions, really to look at how do we change the social norms of our culture, of our communities, that are really about safety and equity, empathy and respect, and not violence. So if anyone ever needs a presentation or wants to hold a roundtable discussion on healthy relationships, sexual harassment, even consent, Title IX, gender socialization, we have a whole slew of presentation topics that we can offer.
Amazing. Yeah, so even if you're on the Facebook watching, you're not looking for shelter or any services, and you just want to contact Jessica to come out to your community, you'd be the person to contact. So
yes,
is that right? Okay. Feel free to ask if you're on Facebook any questions you have for either me or Jessica. If not, I guess we're done. Give it a few minutes. I give it a few minutes to type the question.
Yeah, David, thank you so much for having me on today. Thank you for highlighting the bridge. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I just love the services you guys do, and it's just a wonderful program. Do you have any questions for me, Jessica? Anything you want to ask me? Please nothing hard. I don't want to get stumped.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think I have any questions.
Awesome.
We really appreciate the partnership with you. It's attorneys having legal services available, representation, even consultation for our survivors. It is so needed. It's absolutely incredible. We do not have any attorneys on staff, and so
even if we can't, I can't represent everyone. I only do probably about 50 or 60 cases a year, and that doesn't even begin to touch everyone who needs assistance. Our unit has seven attorneys in Houston. Obviously we have lawyers all over the state, but we have about 7 who just practice in Houston, and we just do family. So all right, I think we're done. I guess we finished a little early. Again, thank you so much, Jessica. You're awesome. I'm so happy I even got to meet you. You're someone back in those back offices that's doing the good work, who, I don't see when I come in and just look at all the art you guys have. So awesome. You have a good weekend. Happy Halloween. Just happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday to you too. You have a great one, David.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.